Are you wanting to stay in the loop of all things iRacing? Then you've come to the right place. This is the IR Download. Green flag is out and the IR Download is underway. I'm Justin Prince. Today is July 30th, 2020. Welcome to episode 3 of the newest iRacing related podcast. The IR Download is your home to learn the main storylines involving the top teams and series on the service, interviews, and more. During today's episode, we will be speaking with Casey Kirwan, Anthony Alfredo, and James Edens. But first, it's time for your headlines of the week. After a nerve-wracking final race of the final round, Team Germany has won the first ever VCO Cup of Nations for UNICEF presented by a Cronus Championship. Team of Maximilian Benecke, Patrick Kolsman, Jonas Wallmeyer, and Alexander Thieb took home the 4,000-pound top prize by just 6 points over Team France. Team Italy rounded out the top 3 countries. The event raised more than 3,000 pounds for UNICEF. A group of sim racing teams announced late last week they would be forming a new organization. 12 teams, including Bauer Racing Team Euronics, Red Bull Racing eSports, Williams eSports, and Team Redline, are among the founding members of the eSports Racing Team Association. The organization was started to give teams their own voice and lend them more weight in the collaboration with sim platforms, game developers, race series, car manufacturers, and drivers. The RTA is looking to welcome new member teams as well. A majority vote for the existing members is necessary to approve new ones. Organizations can express their interest by emailing teams@erta.com. The first admissions vote is set for October 1st. Burton Kligerman Esports has a new driver. The eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series team announced on July 27 that Biloxi, Mississippi-based driver Bob Bright will be driving their number 77 Toyota Camry for the remainder of 2020. The move was made after the team released Ashton Crowder last week due to a social media post. Bright finished 18th at Michigan International Speedway in his debut in round 11. Speaking of the Coke Series, the season schedule continues to be in full flux, including a different track to decide the 2020 title. According to the iRacing member site, this year's season finale will now take place at the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. The final race of the campaign had originally been scheduled to take place at Phoenix Raceway, as per the original NASCAR Cup Series calendar. Round 14 at Darlington has also been rescheduled from September 15th to September 9th. The series originally had a 3-week break between rounds 13 and 14. These were the second set of changes to the series schedule in the span of a week. And those are your headlines heading into July 30th, 2020. Sticking with the NASCAR, the series, as mentioned, headed to Michigan International Speedway on July 28th. Last year, it came down to a drag race off a restart to see who could take home the checkered flag. This year, 2 crashes coming out of the final corner before the leader took the white flag set up round 11 to come down to a second green-white checkered attempt.
Casey Kirwan, he looks for the white flag presented by iRacing.
Does anybody hop out to the outside and help Alex McCollum? They've taken the white flag. McCollum all by himself. They're lining up on the inside. Ray Alfala filling up the back bumper of the number 23. Kirwan drifts up to the outside. It's a battle for second. It's all behind the Denny Hamlin, number 23 of Kirwan.
Kirwan got a little bit loose at it too, though. Here comes McCollum, nowhere to go, though, so he pushes the 23. The fight's going to be for second. Alfala on the inside of Alex McCollum, and it'll be clean air at a turn 4 as they beat and bang behind for Casey Kirwan, winner at Michigan.
That was Evan Pasoko and Tim Terry on the call on iRacing social media platforms. This year's race at MIS had a track record 29 lead changes split amongst 15 drivers. With Kirwan's win, his team, Denny Hamlin eSports, has become the first organization to have both its drivers win in 2020. He now joins me on the IR Download. First things first, Casey, how are you feeling after that victory on Tuesday?
Oh yeah, it feels great, especially after the rough start to the season we had. But I had a lot of confidence going in. I felt really good with what we had, and it showed in the race. We were really quick and ran top 5 pretty much the whole race. Led the most laps, kind of went back and forth with the lead a lot. And then, yeah, had a good battle there with Ray at the end. And then right as we took the lead back from him with 2 to go, Kasha came out and shook things up again. So once we got to that point, I was just hoping not to die in the final restarts with the craziness that was going to ensue with the people staying on and whatnot. But it worked out and got back to the lead and ended up holding everyone off. So yeah, it's great. You know, Keegan's been pulling the weight for the team this year. And just we had such a bad start. We're just getting wrecked so much and been trying to catch up in points, and we've been doing that here lately. And the win Tuesday night definitely made a big chunk. And yeah, now we're closing in on the playoffs. So now it's time to make a playoff push.
Yeah, the playoffs right now are extremely tight. There's been a lot of pressure for drivers to want to get in because Keegan Leahy talked to me earlier that day and told me his focus was on just getting wins. He's in a comfortable spot. There's now a tie for 8th in the point standings after that race between Graham Bolin and Chris Shearburn with several other drivers within one race. There's a few races left to the postseason. How difficult do you feel it's going to be to try and fight amongst a group of up to 10 drivers who could try and get the final couple spots?
Yeah, it'll definitely be tough, especially just it's such a wild schedule too there. I mean, we go to the Daytona Road Course, which we've never done before, in a stock car at least. You know, I've done it in 24 hours. I'm sure other people have. Um, and then then we have Daytona and Talladega, or Talladega's in the playoffs. We have Daytona, leading into it. So, or Talladega, yeah, Daytona and Talladega before the playoffs. So there's just so many wild cards. It's going to be so difficult. But honestly, I don't know. I think for me, it's a lot easier. I don't have the pressure. I haven't been, like a Graham or Shearburn, those guys that have been on the bubble all year. They've been fighting for that. We're kind of coming in late, so I don't really have much to lose in that aspect. I haven't been there the whole time. I'm still, 30 something points out, and 5 races ago, I was probably like 80 or 90 or something like that. So, um, I don't have a lot of pressure to it. Obviously, I'm gonna do everything I can to try and get there, but I don't feel a whole lot of pressure right now, unlike some of those guys probably do, which may play better for us. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting with all the different racetracks, and yeah, it'll be wild. I hope it'll be interesting to watch the next 5 weeks. Everyone around the playoff bubble, it'll be really tight coming down to it.
When I spoke to Keegan a few weeks ago in the opening episode of the IR Download, he talked a bit about you and feeling excitement about how you did at New Hampshire. What's that communication like amongst you and Keegan, in your opinion, especially since you both align technically with different technical alliances?
Yeah. So we're not like together on setups or anything like that, but we do like we still treat each other as teammates. We're in this to win the team championship for Denny. That's the goal. And like I said, Keegan's been pulling the weight. He's had a great start to the year. And every week, like he even the weeks ahead bad, he was like, "Don't worry, man. Your time's gonna come. The luck will turn around. You'll start running good." And it has lately. And every week, we pump each other up if he wins or if I run good, we're like that's we always say stocks, like that's big team points. And we've been gaining. I think after the first couple of weeks, we were probably like 7th or 8th, maybe. Maybe I don't think we were much worse than that. But then now we're up to 2nd. So and slowly gaining on VRS, but it's so hard to gain on them because Ray and Bobby are so consistent too. So it's gonna be close. Hopefully, like I said, that's the goal, is to win the team championship. So we definitely try and take care of each other on the racetrack and work together as much as we can, and just to get the best results we can for Denny.
Mentioned, of course, now working together on the setups. On that side, your technical alliance is Dead Zone Racing. How is everything going on that side of things? Because the Road to Pro side, especially with Total Advantage coming on board this season for that sponsorship, partnership, and team organization, has been one of the top organizations there. How do you feel Speed's coming together now on the Coke side?
Yeah, it's been getting a lot better lately. We struggled at the beginning of the year, and then we kind of got to a point where we were good, but we were a little inconsistent. We've been a lot more consistent now, but we didn't really have winning speed, I think, besides at Charlotte, where I had a couple issues there still, with finishing 7th or 8th, wherever I was, or maybe it was 10th, I don't remember. But then like last night at Michigan, I felt like we had the best car. which is a lot. It gives us a lot of confidence. Our stuff's been getting better and better. Figuring out, the new tire model everyone got this year. I just feel like we didn't quite hit on it quite as quick as other people did. But we're getting better and building a lot of confidence and getting more consistent, and that's how you're gonna score a lot of points and make a run to the playoffs. So yeah, and then Graham Bolin, who I work with, he's been on the playoff bubble the whole time, and then me and Guest was up there, Kane Cook. We were literally 1, 2, 3, 4 for a lot of the race last night. Me, Guest, Colin, and Kane, or Tuesday night. So yeah, we had a lot of speed, and hopefully we can keep carrying that in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, as pit reporter for that race on Tuesday, some of your fellow your technical alliance members rather, were saying they wanted to get a dead zone top 5. That's how confident they felt about that race car. What's kind of the team camaraderie like, or chemistry like, as the weeks progress for each and every race to prepare for a race such as Michigan or the other ones on the co-calendar?
Yeah, it all depends. I mean, so for races last week, like me for New Hampshire, I've always sucked at New Hampshire. So I was like, if I just come out of there clean with a top 20, like that would have been great. That would have been like a win for me. And to get spun late and still get there was fantastic. And even other people that, short tracks can get wild. They want to have just clean runs. But it all depends on how we feel. I mean, normally most weeks we'll have A opens on Monday night before the race, where no one ever. Some people don't really truly show their speed, but you can kind of get a feel for what you got. So it just kind of bases off that. Obviously, we work as hard as we can, but we're still realistic and trying to get the best results we can if we feel like we don't have quite what we need to go compete for a win that day. But the chemistry's been good, and we've all worked well together this year. And and lately especially we've all been starting to see the results that we deserve. So hopefully, like I said, can keep carrying that in the weeks to come. And a lot of us were struggling. We're below relegation for a while now. Some of us have climbed to the top 20, and trying to continue with that. So yeah, just hopefully keep building on that and keep improving throughout the year.
One of the main things when it comes to you, Casey, is you're one of the more active streamers when it comes to drivers in the Coke series. You stream a lot publicly in terms of your racing events that you take part in, your official races. How is it on the streaming aspect and trying to help build your brand on that front, as well as connect to various different people in the iRacing community?
Yeah, it's the streaming stuff's so cool for me. It's basically like if you could put 1,000 people, which we had at the end of Tuesday night, in say Denny Hamlin's car at the end of a race, like cheering him on. It's what it is, and it's just crazy. Like I have chat blocked off, so I don't try and get to myself reading that in the Coke Series races, but I do still see the number of how many people are there, and whenever it's going up, it means a lot, and it really gives you extra motivation every week. And then they're also there for you. When we had that horrible patch, everyone was like, "The luck will turn around." They all supported me, so it definitely means a lot, and it's a lot of fun. I honestly didn't race too much before I started streaming, besides like the big races. I'm one of those people that I need like kind of someone to do it with or some reason. So I can just go run official races, and people, for whatever reason, like to watch and cheer me on and talk and joke around, and it's a lot of fun, and it's just nice to connect with the community that way. And yeah, it's been growing and getting bigger and bigger, and it's definitely something that I didn't see happening like it has. Um, but it's been great, and it definitely means a lot after nights like Tuesday night.
How much has the series changed since when you started to how it is now in terms of competition, as well as the intensity needed to try and compete on a week-to-week basis?
Yeah, well, when I came in 2018, the prize pool was still it was like 10 grand to the champion. I think it was like maybe 20 grand total. I don't really remember.
Give or take.
Yeah, so the competition was still strong, but especially towards the mid to end part of the season, the people that were out of the championship, you could tell it would get to a point where even if you weren't in the championship, if you just wanted to put a lot of effort in and a lot of time, you could go run good pretty easily. Just because some people would not really start giving up. Just they the prize money was really just for the top finishers, right? So the
Mhm.
people that weren't in the top would just kind of, not put too much effort in at the end of the season. So the competition kind of died off towards the end. But after these teams came in, the prize money ratcheted up. I mean, last year was insane, and then this year, I mean, everyone's got signed with teams now. A lot of people have bonuses to go try and race for. The prize money, I mean, we have a $300,000 prize pool with a team championship. You're trying to get as much points to the team championship, which has money in it. So everyone is pushing full out week in, week out, and the competition's insane right now. And it's incredibly rewarding when you run good in it, especially winning it. So um, yeah, it's definitely the highest it's ever been and the toughest it's ever been, and it's probably just going to keep getting tougher and tougher.
What's some of the advice you've gotten from Denny Hamlin as the season's progressed for both you as well as Keegan Leahy? As Denny Hamlin, as a team owner, has had one of his best Cup Series seasons. What advice has he given you as the season's gone on?
Honestly, he's just a huge supporter to me and Keegan. Every week he's good luck, go get him tonight. This is your night, and then congratulations text to Keegan and myself for on good runs. He hasn't really given us much advice. I don't know if he feels he needs to. It's mainly, especially for me, with how bad the season started. He was really supportive and was like, "It'll turn around. You know how it'll go." And he got to see, how we are, and we've gotten to work with him, during the pro invitational stuff.
Mhm.
We did a lot of laps with him and stuff like that. So, I feel like if we ever needed to go to advice from him, he'd definitely give it. But he's just a huge supporter and our biggest fan basically. So, but it definitely means the world to have him supporting us, and it's really cool. And we're doing the best we can to get the best results for him.
A lot of talent's going to be having to take place at the Daytona Road Course, a track the series has never gone to before. It's the first time it'll be seen by anybody before the Cup Series, the Truck Series, as well as the NASCAR Xfinity Series goes there, as well as the ARCA Menard Series. What are you expecting when we go to the Daytona Road Course in about a week and a half, 2 weeks?
I don't really even know what to expect, honestly. Driving it, I've driven the track, and so like I said, I think I mentioned earlier, probably a lot of people have in the 24 Hours of Daytona and iRacing, but those
Yep.
are in specific road course cars. In heavy stock cars is a completely different animal, and it's definitely much different and very difficult to drive. And I'm not sure racing wise how it's going to work out yet. Obviously at the start with when everyone's bunched up, it'll be pretty crazy, but yeah, I don't like I said, I don't know what to expect, but it'll hopefully put on a good show. It's really exciting that we get to kind of be the first ones to show it off. That idea was brought up for us to do that, and they were all on board, and I'm really glad that we get to do that. It's cool for us as drivers and for the series as a whole, and iRacing the service. So hopefully we can bring a lot of eyes and show off what the potential product could be. So yeah, I'm just hoping it puts on a good show, and for myself, just have another solid run. I know I typically run pretty decent at the road courses, as long as you keep it clean. So hopefully I can do that and keep racking up some points.
Anywho, is there anything else you'd like to say that I didn't ask about, or anything else you would like the fans to know about yourself or your team?
Not that I can think of.
Thank you very much for the time, Casey. Congrats on the win.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
That was Casey Kirwan of Denny Hamlin eSports.
Here comes Bell to the outside. He's going to get around Novak, and it's going to be on Mullis to try and make the block.
If he can get to Mullis, he might be able to come away with the championship here. Remember, they were tied entering tonight.
Somehow, some way, big momentum, big send from Alex Bell, big run on the outside. Mullis isn't going to be able to do anything. He bounces off the 15, and the 15 hits the fence. Jimmy Mullis with the side panel makes it work and survives the end of the ERL Premier Series spring season to claim the victory.
That was James Pike and I on the call for the inaugural Esports Racing League Premier Series finale on Podium Esports back in the spring. series, which was created by NASCAR Xfinity Series driver Anthony Alfredo, featured competitors from the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series like Zach Novak and Blake Reynolds, as well as upcoming iRacers such as Cody McCauley and Alex Bell. The Aero finished its time attack qualifiers on July 26th to see who would be a part of its second season. To talk to me about the new season and more, Fast Pasta now joins me on the IR Download. Anthony, thank you very much for taking the time to do this today. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. I appreciate you making the time for me to talk about the league.
Absolutely. First things first, want to talk a little bit about the rear-world side of racing for a bit, where you've had some solid runs in the Xfinity Series so far statistically. How do you feel about how that season has gone so far for you with RCR?
It's been going really well, Justin. I'm glad you brought that up because we've had some phenomenal results in just such a short amount of time. And in the beginning of this year, there was a lot of people who didn't think I was ready for the Xfinity Series. I wasn't even sure if I was ready, but to have someone like Richard Childress himself, the same guy who hired Dale Earnhardt Sr. to drive for him, to believe in me, along with the Dillons and everybody at TDM and Richard Childress Racing in general, just gave me a lot of confidence. And sure enough, I've been doing well so far. I've got great people around me, great equipment, and learning every single race. And I think it's only a matter of time before we put one together soon. I'd say the last 3 races have definitely been my best so far. And I've only ran 10 races, and my average finish leading into the last race at Texas was, I think, somewhere around 9th, which my best career truck series finish in 11 starts was only 8th. So these cars really fit my driving style, and everything just seems to have been going really well. And Texas was actually my first DNF, but I actually passed Kyle Busch for the lead and had to give up the lead intentionally because we had debris on the grill. And after doing that, ended up getting run up the track in 3 and 4 and went into 1 and 2 and just had the marbles, we call it, built up on the tires, and I couldn't really turn. And once I got completely out of the groove, out of the PJ1 traction compound that the track has laid down, car just took off on me, and I got into the fence, and we actually ran the rest of the race. And then with 9 to go, something broke in the suspension. But we were just kind of riding around trying to gather as many points as we could for the Owners' Championship for Richard. But nonetheless, it's still been going really well. To be leading laps, running up front, and contending for wins here shortly is very exciting and a big confidence booster for everybody, especially myself. And like I said earlier, we've gotten really close. Now it's just fine tuning a couple things so that we could put one together and get our first win. And I think once we do that, we'll be up there, frequently.
One of the challenges with this season is no practice in qualifying because of the current world situation with COVID-19. NASCAR recently announced no practice in qualifying for the rest of 2020 for the main 3 series. What are some of the difficulties to essentially jump into the race days cold with no practice, no qualifying, just prior race notes and experience to rely on in some cases?
It's definitely nerve-wracking for sure. I think one of the biggest things for me is not only being a rookie in the series, but there's a lot of tracks I've never even been to yet. And some of the ones that I have been to in, say, the truck series are tremendously different in a NASCAR Xfinity Series car. It's almost like nothing applies. So it's been very difficult, but that's where working with Chevrolet on the simulator and even on my SimSeats driving simulator at home on iRacing, just to get visuals of some of the tracks I'm going to be going to and just kind of have a general idea of what to expect, because the first lap is the drop of the green flag, as you mentioned, 0 practice. And the only race I had practiced for was my first race of the year at Auto Club Speedway, where I finished 6th. And I only had one of the 2 practice sessions there since somebody blew a motor and oiled the track down. So other than that, I haven't had any practice, any opportunity to qualify. So the random drawing hasn't been too kind to us. We've been very unlucky, and I've started, it goes by points. So we're in the top 12 in points. So the worst we could start is 12th, but the best we could start is on the pole. And I haven't started any better than 7th yet. Most of the time my average is 10th or 11th. So that's been frustrating too, because I know if we could qualify, we could be going for poles and start up front, make the day a little bit easier. But nonetheless, it's all right. I think as difficult as it has been, it's been going very well, as well as it could be, in my opinion. So we'll just keep getting better and building off that. And as you also mentioned, prior notes is huge. And my teammates, Austin Dillon and Tyler Reddick on the Cup side, have provided a lot of input for me. Obviously, Tyler won back-to-back Xfinity Series championships, the second one last year coming at Richard Childress Racing. So we've got a great notebook, and his knowledge about the cars has been very valuable for me as well.
You touched a bit upon the similar work with Chevrolet. How important is that with this type of scenario, whether it's been in iRacing or with Chevrolet to try and prepare for each of these racetracks?
It's been huge. I think it's helped me a lot on different fronts, like I mentioned before, the just learning new tracks while also learning the cars. I still don't know everything about these cars. I'm learning new things every week, and the reason for that is because you go to different tracks and they drive differently, or you need to drive them differently. And I think I have gotten to the point where I pretty much know what I want and need out of the race car, and that's why our performance has gotten even better each week. So that's important, and a lot of that is credit to working on the simulator and just getting a better feel for our cars, what changes uh, affect the balance in a certain way, and all kinds of things like that. So hopefully, I can just keep making the most out of my simulator time, and like I said earlier, even just getting visuals for some of these new tracks on iRacing at home.
One of the main things that has popped up, of course, with iRacing on top of the Pro Invitationals was you started your own racing league, as talked about, the ERL. Why did you start the ERL, first of all?
That's a great question. Esports and gaming in general has always been very important to me, and I've been around since the beginning when esports became a thing and there was competitive events in the Call of Duty scene, and I was always supportive of that, watching it, following the big esports organizations. And when I got into racing, the place where the two industries really collide is through simulation and iRacing. And that's what made me fall in love with iRacing. And not only that, but the fact that I could utilize the simulation to help benefit me in my real life racing. I have this campaign, I guess you could call it, called Sim to Reality. And I always talk about how I've actually gone from playing iRacing and practicing on a simulator, racing against sometimes fans, but just other virtual racers, and been able to apply some of the skills and knowledge I've gained to real life. And that's been really cool. And that's what inspired me to create the Esports Racing League, because I wanted to provide an opportunity for some of these young aspiring racers. And even if they maybe don't want to race in the real world, it's more about just providing this proving ground for these up and coming esports racers, so to speak, these e-racers who are very talented, really good on the simulator. And I consider our league one of the most competitive hosted leagues. That's not, an official league through iRacing software, just because of the fact we had actually almost 20 world champions last season qualify, and I'd expect more than that this season. And then you have all the Coke Series drivers competing, and it's very competitive, and it's exciting, and it's a lot of fun. And it's just near and dear to my heart because of the esports industry, just having an impact in my life. And like I said, just my racing career. It's just a really cool way to bridge the two industries together.
Who are some of the drivers who really caught your eye after what you've seen from them on the track, whether it was in the Sportsman side or the Premier Series?
That's a great question. On the sportsman side last season, Lucas Cram won countless races. I don't even remember. I think he won half of them. I'd like to say he won 6 or so of the 12 or 13 we had. And on the Premier Series side, which for those who are listening and don't know, we actually had 2 series last year. So we had a larger number of drivers, but they were split up into 2 groups of 40 drivers. The Sportsman Series was the bottom split, and the Premier Series was the top split. And on the Premier Series side, Jimmy Mullis, Zach Novak, and Alex Bell really caught my eye. Jimmy and Zach are teammates in the Coca-Cola iRacing series, and a lot of people expect them to go do well in the league, of course, just with their experience. But the coolest thing about the league is it's all fixed setup. And that doesn't necessarily mean the best driver in the field always wins, because their long enough strategy and things like that come into play. But it just makes it a little bit more level playing field for some. Just because some might not have the time to build setup or the knowledge to build a setup, and they can just focus on driving the car and figuring out how to make it go fast. And that's where Alex Bell really impressed me. He came off a turn 4, tied for the championship with Jimmy Mullis on the final lap, side by side, coming to the line, and he just about had it won. They just got into each other a little bit there and provided an exciting finish for the fans. But for him to go head to head with a Coke Series driver and almost win the inaugural season championship was incredible.
Absolutely, it was an absolute thrilling finish at the time on Podium Esports. This, of course, is one of the first times running a league of this kind for you. What are some of the things you have had to learn as time went on from starting this organization all the way to now?
That's a really difficult question to answer, because there's a lot of different things I learned on both the race control side of things, on the scheduling, and I guess the way events are set up. And of course, on the broadcasting side, there's just so many different things that I learned throughout the season as a league owner. But the biggest thing for us was obviously having those races broadcasted, which was super exciting, allowed us to kind of build our brand a little bit. And we look forward to continuing to do that so that we can gain enough sponsorship to give up cash prizes for races and a championship bonus of some sort. And a title sponsor for the league would be ideal. So that's something we're working towards, and building the brand was definitely very important. But honestly, for me, the most important thing was establishing a league where all the drivers were, content with the way the races were formatted and so on, because it's hard to build your brand if the drivers or the competitors don't even, really believe in it, right? So I worked really hard on just trying to make it cater to everybody, and you're not going to make everyone happy as a league owner. I kind of understand how NASCAR feels on a small scale now with some of the changes they make, but it was definitely fun to work on that, and we kind of moved things around as the season went on, just if the drivers had some input, and that's definitely something we're going to work on going into the future. I think we've got a much better idea of what to expect and how to structure things so that we can have an incredible second season.
I was going to ask about some of the challenges. You answered some of those questions. Now with that, though, the new season, what are some of the big changes to try and balance out some of those difficulties and challenges for season 2?
So the first thing I would say is having one ERL. It's just going to be the eSports Racing League. There's going to be no Sportsman. There's going to be no Premier Series. There will be almost as many drivers that make the league off the time attack session. And one thing we're adding is, instead of just the time attack session qualifying you for the league, we're going to take a larger number to go into 2 qualifying races, 2 heat races, and narrow that number down. And that'll be the final number, final group of competitors for the league. And the reason for that is because there's some people who may race really well, but aren't the best hot lappers, or maybe just the track the time attack is at isn't their best. And the same goes for people who may be able to lay down a really fast lap, but aren't the best racers. So it kind of goes both ways, makes it a little bit more fair of a playing field. And we're excited about that, to have one large league. And another benefit to that is being able to sell sponsorship for just the one league and not have to worry about balancing 2 separate leagues and trying to keep it fair as far as prize money for each league. So I'm really excited about that. And the top 5 from Sportsman and Premier are still locked in. So in saying that, some people from the Sportsman side and of course the Premier side last year make a lineup of 10 drivers that will in fact be starting this season, guaranteed.
Good to know that, absolutely. But who are some of the under the radar drivers, in your opinion, we should watch for season 2? Who caught your eye in the time attacks, who you may have raced against or seen flashes of in the past? Who should we keep an eye on? Who's under the radar?
That's a really good question. I'm trying to think. I know there was so many drivers on here that were, caught my eye. In particular, a lot are returning drivers, but some I'm very excited about are new names like Donovan Strauss, who's up and coming in the Road to Pro series and iRacing. And to see someone like that who's going to be new to the series, but who has plenty of speed, is going to be exciting to watch. And I'd say, more on the underdog side, maybe would be someone like, trying to think here, probably Nick Olson is back, and he actually raced last year. So his advantage is he might not have been in the top 10 in time attack, but he has the experience of the league. He knows how these races play out. We haven't changed too much of them as far as the structure goes. So someone like Nick is going to be able to go out there and have a little bit of, experience. And I guess you could call him a seasoned veteran. He actually won a race last season, the Talladega Dude Wipes 175. So to have people returning who qualified in, who have this experience from prior seasons, will definitely be impressive and fun to watch.
Overall, what should the fans expect to see once the green flag flies for race 1 on August the 5th?
Some of the most exciting league racing you'll ever see, and that's just because of the fact of how competitive the league is. There's a lot of fun hosted leagues that I've run in and are a blast, but the fact that this is so competitive, has so many experienced iRacers who have been on iRacing for so many years or won so many races, competed at the pro level, make it that much more exciting. And the coolest part is, as a fan perspective and a competitor's perspective, is it's open to all skill levels, all license levels. So even though there's a lot of very talented or experienced iRacers in the series, one of the most fun things to see is some of these underdogs or guys who maybe haven't competed at the pro level in iRacing are still in the league. They made it in. They qualified in through the time attack in their heat race, and they're going to be going head to head with Coke Series drivers, just like we talked about Alex Bell earlier, and that's always fun to watch.
Absolutely. I think there's going to be a lot of popcorn being floated about in the comment sections in the broadcasting viewership for that race come August the 5th. When's the next time you'll be in the real world track, by the way? On the real world track, rather.
Well, the next one will be after our first 2 ERL races on August 23rd at Dover, which we know how that went for me on the sim. I won the Pro Invitational Series Saturday Night Thunder race there, so I'm excited about that, but it's going to be cool to be able to sit back and kind of focus on the league a little bit in this downtime and compete in the first event or two maybe, depending on how the driver lineup is looking. But I'm just excited to watch it, be a part of it, and I hope everyone enjoys it.
Anything else you'd like to say that I didn't ask about today?
No, not as of now. I just want to thank you for your time, and I'm excited to get the league underway this year and continue my on-track work as well.
Thank you very much for the time, Anthony. Good luck for the start of the new campaign.
Thank you.
That was NASCAR Xfinity Series driver and eSports Racing League owner Anthony Alfredo. Meanwhile, with the iRacing World of Outlaws Morton Buildings Late Model World Championship, the battle for the title in that series has become comparable to a game of tug-of-war. Just when one driver seems to have visually gained control of the points lead, another one seems to pull it right back towards their favor the next time around. That pattern continued on July 27th.
White flag, 1 to go. This time by the starter stand. James Eanes will see it first. He makes his way into 1 and 2 through the middle of the racetrack. Dedman and Wilson continue their battle for second, but into 3 and 4 for the final time. James Eanes is going to come off of turn number 4. He'll be the 5th winner in 6 races with the series. He gets it done tonight at Kokomo Speedway.
That was Chase Rodman and I on the call on iRacing social media platforms. Hayden Cardwell, the points leader entering Kokomo Speedway, fell to second in the standings behind Dylan Wilson after recovering to a 7th place finish after several incidents throughout the night. Now with the victory, Eanes has won his first ever World Championship event in a dirt late model. He now joins me on the IR Download. James, first things first, how are you feeling today after that victory?
Awesome. Still kind of in shock a little bit. It's been a struggle in the late models, to say the least. It's taken me 3 seasons to finally get a win, and it's just kind of relieving, but still kind of shocked, especially at a place like Kokomo. It's definitely not one of my stronger places. So, but yeah, just very shocked and very relieved, and hopefully we can do better the rest of the season now.
How tricky was a race such as that? Because there was a fair bit of bumping and banging at some points by some competitors. There was 4-wide racing in the corners, up to 6-wide at some points when you include the very edge of the spoilers of some of the cars. How tough was Kokomo, especially being one of the smallest tracks in the calendar?
Yeah, it's definitely tough. It was all about getting through the first couple laps and kind of getting into a place and then getting into a rhythm and finding your own line and making moves from there. And fortunately, we didn't have to deal with any of that 5 and 6 wide that they had in the mid pack, because that would have been a little too stressful for me, I think. But yeah, it's just one of those places. It's very wide, and there's at least 3 or 4 different grooves that you can run at any given time. So it makes for some great racing action, and I think we saw that last on Monday. So big shout out to all the guys at iRacing for they moved the tires in there and really gave us another lane on the bottom. So I think it showed last night for sure.
Now, you've shown speed, of course, in the sprint cars, but as you talked about, it's been years up to that race to try and get a victory in the late models. What's some of the trickiest things when it comes to trying to carry some of the speed over from what you've shown in the sprint cars to what you showed in the late models in the past few races?
I really don't know what it is, because we've had some really good runs and some really great speed in the late models, but just seem to be really inconsistent. Where the sprint car, I think we've kind of got it figured out, and we use pretty much the same setup everywhere, and I think that helps a ton. Where the late model, we got to be new setup for every track, and it makes it more challenging. And I think a big thing too is the competition in the late models is much tougher than it is in the sprint cars. I think we've had 5 different winners in 6 races. And I think sprint cars, we only had 5 different winners over the whole season. So, there's just a lot better cars, a lot harder competition, a lot more guys that can win races. So it makes it tougher.
Absolutely. And you talked about the differences in setups. There was even differences amongst your own team, Swidell SpeedLab, because some of the drivers like to run the top line. You told Chase and I on Monday that you were set up for the middle to bottom line, I believe it was. Where do those preferences come in when it comes to that process, when it comes to a team such as Swidell SpeedLab?
Yeah, it definitely makes it, it can be a challenge sometimes because, some of the guys don't like the stuff I run and, I don't like some of the stuff they run. So it can be a challenge, if we can't get something that we both, we all agree on that, seems to work for us all. So, yeah, but, it's just kind of, at the end of the day, you got to do what's going to work best for you. And, they got to do what's going to work best for them. But, we definitely all try to work together and help each other out and get it all going in the right direction.
What's the communication like then in that process throughout a race week in preparation for that, as well as, mind you, having a big name personality being in charge of the team and Kevin Swidell?
It can be difficult at times, but most of the time we got a pretty good group of guys that we've been together for over a year now, and just it kind of flows. You got to have the right people. If you don't, it just doesn't work. And luckily we have a good group of guys that work pretty much day in and day out to get us where we need to be. And communication is definitely key. And I think right now we got pretty good.
Absolutely. At this point, want to get back towards the point of Kevin Swidell, of course, organized this team. I've seen him actually in some cases, day of race days, jumping in practices and running with you some of the World of Outlaws morning building these late model world championship drivers and some of the open practices held throughout the week. How big is he in being a part of that organization for you?
Yeah, it's awesome to have someone like Kevin on board with this stuff and, kind of helping support us and, kind of give us a bigger platform for it all. But yeah, he's passionate about it. I think he's been sim racing all his life since he was a teenager, back in the old days of NR 2003 and stuff like that. So, he understands it. He gets it. He understands our passion for it. So, it's really awesome to have someone like that, and, that has such a big voice in the racing community, be so supportive of, sim racing as it is.
What's been some of the type of advice you and your teammates have gotten from him as time has gone on?
The big thing, you just, got to keep your emotions in check when you're on the track and, stay calm and, not let the little things get to you and then, you start to overdrive or, just anything. Just kind of minimize your mistakes and focus on your race and not worry about what other people are doing is the big stuff that he's helped a lot of the guys kind of understand and get in that rhythm.
I want to talk about yourself a little bit more once again. What should people know about you outside of the sim? Because you've been a sim racing veteran now for about 3 years. What is your day-to-day like outside of the sim?
Right now, just, we're on summer break from college. So, not much right now, just put in some laps and, enjoy some other video games with my friends. And then, but, during the school year, we, school Monday through Thursday and then, homework and then trying to keep up with sim racing on top of that. And then, for the first couple of years, I was actually racing in real life too. So I was busy on the weekends. And so it definitely, time was kind of an issue at that point. But, this year we're not racing full time. So just kind of enjoying myself right now and, and a little worried about getting back to school. Going to be starting my senior year of college. So should be interesting.
Where's that at, by the way?
I go to UNOH, University of Northwestern Ohio.
Which is a big university, too, when it comes to its development with dirt and iRacing as well.
Yeah, they own Limaland Speedway, and they have a very good automotive, side of the school, tech side of the school. They do, regular automotive, motorsports, diesel, ag, all kinds of stuff. So, that's actually what I got my associates in, was high performance, motorsports from there, and now I'm getting my business degree. So, it's awesome to be at a school that kind of, understands it and supports racing, and it definitely makes it all a lot easier.
Want to swing back towards the real world racing a little bit. You said not running full time this season. What's the work been like to try and get yourself prepared for more real world racing opportunities and put yourself in that position to do so, to get more experience in the real world compared to the virtual side?
It gets tougher and tougher each year. If you don't have a lot of, it seems like nowadays, especially if you don't have a lot of money backing you, it's kind of hard to get anywhere. So, but fortunately, I was lucky to have a ride for a few years there with just a local guy running modifieds, and it was enjoyable. But unfortunately, he got sick, and we can't run the car full time. So it's just it's the way it goes.
I'm sorry to hear that. What are some of the differences you've been able to feel between the dirt as compared to the iRacing side?
Oh yeah, from the real world to the iRacing, there's definitely some noticeable differences. The big one, you just got to remember that at the end of the day, we are just racing on the computer, and it is a simulation, so it's definitely not going to be perfect. And you feel a lot more in the real car than I think you do on iRacing, because iRacing, we just have force feedback through the steering wheel, so that's all you really feel. But where like versus a real car, you can kind of feel it, and you can feel it. When you're actually sitting in the seat, you can feel the car grip up. When you hit moisture and through the tires, and you can really feel the rear end. Where iRacing, it's more just based off the feeling in the front end of the car.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially that's been something talked about by many before. Now, though, few more rounds left to go on the campaign. What's kind of your focus like now that you've finally got the first win in the late models, and there's 3 fairly different racetracks, 3 or 4 rather, I should say, coming up on the calendar?
Yeah, unfortunately we had a few bad races, so we're probably out of the championship contention. But after the first win, I think build up some momentum, and maybe hopefully get another one by the end of the year would be awesome. So we'll just take it 1 week at a time and prepare the best we can.
Fairbury was talked about by Chase Rodman at the end of the last broadcast, that it puts on an exciting show. What do you expect for Fairbury in some of the challenges which may come up with the last bull ring on the calendar?
I think Fairbury, the wall for sure. It normally seems to be pretty top dominant, so staying out of the wall and keeping the car clean is going to be huge, and probably one of the biggest difficulties that a lot of guys will struggle with. Myself included. I definitely not a big fan of having to run the top for an entire race, because at one point or another I'll get in the wall a few times. So but yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the sprint car race we saw was they did some good track prep there, with a call to reset it before the feature, and it made for some really good racing. So hopefully we get to see something like that in the late models, and get to see the bottom middle be somewhat viable, so we can have a good race.
I think it's going to be actually an intriguing race to see how everyone does at the last bull ring on the calendar. I want to ask you this. What type of advice would you give to an up-and-coming iRacer who's listening in, who wants to try and get to the highest levels of iRacing, especially in the dirt side? What advice would you give them?
Be patient, and don't wreck. That's it seems obvious, but a lot of guys will, they seem to try too hard too early, and then they get into the wall and get damage on their car, or in the sprint car you end up flipping and your race is done. So the age-old saying, to win the race you got to first finish. So you just got to be there at the end of the races, and take your time, and find where the guys in front of you are making their mistakes, or where your car is better than theirs, and use that to your advantage. Really just be patient is the big thing.
Anything else you like to say that I didn't ask about?
No, I think I'm good.
Thank you very much for the time, James.
Yeah, thank you.
That was James Edens of Swidell SpeedLab. White flag is in the air. It's the final lap of this week's edition of the IR Download, meaning it's time to hear the upcoming races to watch. Tonight, the Porsche eSports Sprint Challenge Canada is back in action at the virtual Circuit Jovunu for its fourth and final round of the campaign. Vinyl Sim Racing's Brandon Hawken has put on a clinic so far in the series, taking home every victory so far. Can he complete the full sweep? Find out by watching Apex Racing TV's coverage at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the iRacing eSports Network and Porsche Motorsport Canada's Facebook page. The major series is back from its summer break on July 31st to August 2nd for this year's running of the Knoxville Nationals. The iRacing eSports Network will be home to all the action, starting with the international race at 3:45 a.m. Eastern Time. That coverage will be provided by SimSpeed Esports Network. Then, on August 2nd, European Pro Split hits the track at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. RaceSpot TV will bring you that action there. Then finally, the Global Sim Racing channel will have coverage of the American Split at 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Meanwhile, on August 1st, the Ivor Club Sports Summer Series looks to finish its campaign strong with 6 hours of Imola. Beniti Racing enters the weekend looking to clinch both the Cup and Sport Class championships, while the two full-send racing machines hope to hold off Team Punchenveld in the TCRs. RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network will have live coverage starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. On August 2nd, the Lionheart Racing Series will be launching a new type of series, the HyperX Summer Series. The 4-round season will feature drivers from its IndyCar, Retro, and Challenge Series rosters. 4 GTEs will be looking to start off strong at the virtual Daytona International Speedway's road course at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Global Sim Racing channel. Then, on August 3rd, the iRacing World of Outlaws Morton Building's Late Model World Championship will be heading to its final bull ring-style track of the season, the Fairbury American Legion Speedway. It'll be the first event at the 0.25-mile track in series history. Coverage starts at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on iRacing social media platforms. Then the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro Series will be going left and right at the virtual Canadian Tire Motorsport Park on August 4th. Who will survive the tricky fan-favorite road course? Find out by watching live on Podium Esports at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And finally, the Esports Racing League will be looking to start their second season off strong at the virtual Michigan International Speedway. Several eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers are expected to be in the field, including defending champion Zach Novak and Team Doing Esports' Blake Reynolds. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/ERL_racing. That will be provided by Podium Esports. The checker flag is out, meaning it's time to say goodbye. I'd like to thank Casey Kirwan, Anthony Alfredo, and James Edens for taking the time to appear on Episode 3 of the IR Download. Be sure to keep up to date with the latest episodes by following the show on Twitter at @the_IR_download, Facebook at facebook.com/IR download, and SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/the_IR_download. I'm Justin Prince. Enjoy the rest of your week.